I'm good? Okay. My topic is prenuptial agreements. Okay, so how many of you guys think that you're going to get married in your lifetime? Sometime. Okay, awesome. Now, how many of you guys think you're going to get divorced in your lifetime? Okay. So, not many people want to go into a marriage thinking that they're going to get divorced, but in a time when divorce is becoming ever more popular, it's important for the bride and groom to protect themselves and their assets should the unthinkable happen and the marriage fails. A legal agreement made by a couple concerning ownership of their respective assets should the marriage fail is called a prenuptial agreement. For those of you guys who didn't know, it's also referred to as a prenup. And in order to guard your assets and protect yourself from an all-out battle in divorce court, it is important to sign a prenuptial agreement before you enter marriage. Now, most of you, I'm sure, have heard the statistic that 50% of all marriages fail. Has everybody heard that statistic for the most part? Okay, well, that's actually a really large overgeneralization. In fact, according to Jennifer Baker of the Forrest Institute of Professional Psychology, around 50% of first marriages end in divorce, and it only goes up from there. 67% of second marriages end in divorce, and 74% of third marriages end in divorce, which is kind of shocking if you think about it, right? According to the same source, around 66% of those divorces are between childless couples who just found that they kind of got bored with each other and fell out of love without, a child to dote over and take care of, and that was what caused their marriage to fail. In a survey done of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers in 2010, last year, 73% of divorce and family lawyers saw an increase in requests for prenuptial agreements. Now, you guys may wonder why this is so important to me. My parents got divorced when I was 4 years old, and my sister was 3, and it was this long, drawn-out process. It took like a year and a half, and it was just a battle, and my family was like never the same. So I really don't want to have that happen to me. In the event that my marriage should fail, which obviously I don't want, nobody goes into a marriage thinking, I really hope that we get divorced. But in the event that my marriage should fail, I would like it to be just a very cut and dry, both of us go our separate ways. Maybe we could be friends because there wasn't, us mudslinging in divorce court. So some people, such as my friends, when we had this discussion, view being asked to sign a prenup as an insult, thinking that you should be completely certain that, the other person is the one, or else you shouldn't be getting married at all. And while I think this is a valid stance, I also believe that a prenuptial agreement is kind of a protection against change. 'Cause people change, things happen, and should you find that you're falling out of love with the person that you married, you should have that protection in case you want to get a divorce. Another stance is that divorce is more imminent when a prenup is signed. However, according to Erica, who was she was an attorney who spoke in Money Magazine and asked that her last name not be used. She's a family law attorney. She said that in the divorces that she saw, the determining factor of whether they were miserable or not was not based on what type of people, or was based on what type of people they were, not whether or not they happened to sign a prenup. However, should one find themselves falling out of love with their significant other, a prenup is kind of an insurance policy taken out on the marriage before you actually enter the marriage. And just as it would not be wise for somebody to drive their car without an insurance policy on their car, it would not be wise for somebody to enter a marriage without the insurance policy of a prenuptial agreement on their marriage. Now, everybody, I'm sure, hears some kind of celebrity gossip, probably daily, if not weekly. Prenups have been in the news in the past and in the present as well, with Kate Middleton and Prince William getting married on Friday. With a prenup, Britney Spears and Kevin Federline, I'm sure everybody screamed no when Britney Spears made that a large mistake. But when she finally realized what a colossal mistake she made, she only had to forfeit $1 million of her $100 million fortune because she was smart and she signed a prenup. However, Donald Trump and Paul McCartney were not as smart. And I know it's a little bit hard to feel sorry for Donald Trump since he's, really, really rich. But still, he paid $30 million in total to his two wives, his first two wives, and now he has a prenup. So when he saw that Paul McCartney was marrying Heather Mills, and he appeared on Larry King Live and said, "We're just so in love, we're not getting a prenup because we're just so in love." He was like, that guy is an idiot. And turns out he was right because he also had to pay for his decision with $48.7 million, which is a small sum compared to the $250 million that she was trying to get out of him. And had they signed a prenup, then a total of $78.7 million would have been saved. However, these are people, everybody views celebrities as kind of far off, and they're not really relevant to our lives much, right? No, wrong. My roommate, Courtney, she's my best friend, and her uncle is unhappy in his marriage, but he can't divorce his wife because they didn't sign a prenup, and she's basically threatening to go after everything he owns, and he can't afford to divorce her because he doesn't have the insurance of a prenup. And he's just your regular middle-class guy. He's a high school teacher, and he still faces the same predicament that celebrities and millionaires do. The aforementioned 73% of divorce lawyers stated that the demand for prenuptial agreements has especially grown amongst middle-class couples, which just kind of brings the whole thing back down to us. I mean, I don't really know if you guys are billionaires or millionaires, but I know I'm not a millionaire, so still a prenuptial agreement is relevant to my life and to your lives. So in order to solve this issue of either a partner being left destitute from a divorce or having to pay for their divorce forever because their partner basically stole their life savings, prenuptial agreements should be mandated before two people enter into the union of a marriage. In order to ensure that this is occurring, it should be mandated that when you go down, downtown or to the courthouse or wherever you happen to go for your marriage license, that you already have a prenuptial agreement signed and it's already notarized and done before you get your marriage license so that you can get a marriage license. And while it seems like it might be, a little controversial now, and I'm sure it would be a little controversial now, eventually it's just going to be assimilated into the culture, and a prenup is just going to be that stupid thing you have to get done before you get your marriage license. So imagine now that it's 10 or 15 years from now, and you're about to marry the love of your life, or who you think is the love of your life, and divorce is a quaint notion. It's, never going to happen to you because you and your significant other are so truly and totally in love. In fact, you're so blinded by your love that you neglect to sign a prenuptial agreement. Now it's 5 years after the wedding and you're knee-deep in an ugly divorce, fighting over assets and wondering why you neglected to sign this prenup 5 years ago. Now irreparable damage has been done to your relationship. The two of you can't even look at each other without feeling disdain, which is the case with my parents. And you can't even be friends. And it would have saved you so much trouble if you just signed that stupid prenup. And now imagine that it's 10 or 15 years from now and you're about to marry the love of your life, and divorce still seems like a quaint notion. It'll never happen because you and your significant other are just so truly and totally in love. But it's mandated that you have to get a prenuptial agreement signed in order to get your marriage license. So you suck it up, you have the agreement drawn up, and your lawyers do all the work, and you and your fiance just have to sign it. Now it's 5 years later and the marriage didn't work out. But on the bright side, you have this prenup detailing the division of your assets, so your divorce is very cut and dry. You and your former significant other are able to move on amicably with your lives, maybe even be friends sometime in the future. So doesn't this sound like a much better scenario than being knee-deep in an all-out war in divorce court with all of these lawyers' fees? And yeah, I think it sounds like a much better plan. So while affecting legislation is a bit of a lofty goal for right now, so instead I'm just going to challenge you guys to make the decision to get a prenuptial agreement and stick to it. If your significant other refuses to sign the agreement or threatens to cancel the engagement if you insist on a prenup, then they're probably not the one you should be marrying in the first place. So, if it's hard, and plus, if it's hard to get them to sign a prenup, think of how difficult it is for them to get a divorce and how you're going to have to fight in divorce court. So it's just all around better for you to get a prenup. And the bottom line is that it will be better in the end to have the comfort of a prenuptial agreement should the unthinkable happen and the marriage ends up in divorce court than to be standing there wishing you had signed one before you got married in the first place.